Hello, my friends, and welcome to the very first Transformation Tuesday of 2023. I am your host, Christy Effelman with Edge Leadership, and today we are joined by my friend and Edge grad, Priyanka Gotika. Priyanka, hi, lady.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm
This is
so
an amazing
happy to have
opportunity.
you.
I'm
So
happy to be here too.
I know you are. I know you are. And I know that we have so many people that are joining thanks to your LinkedIn posts and your huge following. So, hello to everyone who is joining us today. If this is your first time joining one of our storytellers, last year we started this live series in advance of the release of my first book, The Peer Revolution. Last year's lives were storytellers who were featured in the book. This year, we kind of had to kick it up a notch. So 2023 is our 10-year anniversary here at Edge Leadership. And in 10 years, we have impacted more than 10,000 leaders. And of those 10,000 leaders, just 12 are joining us to share their stories each month. And the outcomes of this 15, 20-minute live, we'll see how long it lasts, are simple. There are two. The first is that we provide a powerful platform to share stories of personal transformation. And the second is that we can then inspire all of those listening that you can transform your life too. So I invite you to always join us. It's usually the second Tuesday of the month, but we shift that based on schedules as needed to be inspired by folks just like you who have transformed their lives and challenged the status quo of their mindsets, both personally and professionally. And so I invite you to please drop a note in the comments. I promise we will comment on your comments. But for right now, the two of us are going to focus on sharing an engaging conversation with you. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and let Priyanka introduce herself to all of you.
Great, thanks, Christy. And just before introducing myself, I got the book Peer Revolution as well, and highly recommend reading it because part of the thing is just the method and the process of doing the group coaching or peer coaching, getting benefits of it, but the stories, the transformation stories are amazing to read through. So definitely recommend the book. So back to me. I don't know where to start, right? From an introduction point of view, I um, consider myself a storyteller. Thank you for already saying that. Storyteller because I'm a regular person, like Christy was saying, like you, and I like to tell stories because it feels like when I'm telling these stories, it builds that connection and feels like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not alone in this journey, right? So that's the reason I tell the stories, and I use my curiosity and my authentic voice to tell it in my own way. Um, from a professional career point of view, I started off as an engineer and moved into a corporate strategy role, which also the Edge program actually has a role to play in figuring out what my core values were and figuring out which kind of career aligns more better with my core values, right? So that's where I am right now. But really, consider me as a reflection of you. That's how I would introduce myself.
I love that. Think about that image of a mirror just came up for me as you were talking. Think of me as a reflection of you. And one of the things, so I met, for all of those of you listening, I met Priyanka via LinkedIn before Edge. And if you are not already connected to this woman, everybody, right now hit the connect button because you want to follow her content and, just as importantly, her stories. And so I say I fell in love with you, Priyanka, before I even knew you. And then you came to our launch and I'm like, hot dog. I almost word there, but we're on a live. Like, hot dog, like, this woman is all that in a bag of chips. And you are so authentic in the way that you tell your stories. And that's really where I want to begin today. And let's just jump right in.
Mhm.
Tell us your story, my friend, in your words. Take us back to a year ago,
Yeah.
before Edge, the Priyanka at work and at home, before your transformation. What was it like? What were you like? What shifted and how?
So a lot of the things that I still am, and the parts that I'm still am are, wanting to do more and be more, and find the what am I fully capable of, right? But 1 year ago, when my daughter was just 2 years old, and I started off in at my current company about almost 1 year, I think, at that time, or 1.5 years. And everything was sort of new. Being a mom was new, this role was new. So it felt like getting pulled in multiple directions, right? And there is scope to grow, scope to grow and become the best mom, like what I had the definition of best mom in my head, or best
I remember that definition.
or best marketer, which I was doing at that time. I could be the best version, but I felt like there was a sense of pulling in different directions. What really actually Edge helped is, in fact, even before the program started, right? Like when the applications itself were, I was going through the applications. It's not like a simple, you just put your credit card and you're in the program. No, you had to fill an application. You had to write your statement of purpose, like why you're doing this, what are the desired outcomes out of this, and so on, right? That's where actually a lot of the thinking started. And in fact, most of my LinkedIn journey started as well, because that made me think, okay, this is my current state. Where should I go from here? And I'll say there is one piece that is maybe different or unique in my case is I just started therapy that year, the year before. So we started Edge in 2022 January, but I was in therapy maybe a few months before, and there was already my mind is already tuned to sharing in a space of vulnerability, right? And then we moved more into a group coaching experience, which kind of took it to the next level,
Yeah.
because it's not a one-on-one with your therapist anymore. It's like you have this space to share in a much bigger environment, right? So there was that. And as the application process happened and I got through and we started the journey, it was more like, okay, this is really serious. This is not just any other leadership program, right? That's where it got really serious for me personally, internally, right? Like I internalized, okay, what is my outcome? I have to really internalize this. And that's where a lot of the shifts started to happen. Um, I posted about that yesterday on LinkedIn, which is one of the outcomes is to stop pleasing everybody or being liked by everybody, which is very very central to who I was,
Yes.
which is the difference. So I'm still more ambitious. I'm still wanting to be doing more and be more and reach my full potential, but not because I want to please someone, not because I want to be liked by a group of people, or by a certain team or anything like that. So that was a big shift, I will say. And yeah, that was me before before Edge.
Yeah, and what comes up for me that a couple things that are so powerful, when you talked about how can I be okay when people who aren't okay with me?
Mhm.
And when you talked about that there was this motivation of pleasing people before, and as you were sharing that, Priyanka, like I went back to a year ago, and what popped into my head was, at what cost?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think about how many, and Edge, a lot of our group coaching experiences are for women and those identifying with femininity, but we also have for men and those identifying with masculinity. And then, of course, we have across the genders. And what I will say over and over, this wanting to please others shows up so much in that women in those identifying with femininity, much more so. Not to say that, the guys don't have their own challenges, because they do, but it's not necessarily from that place of, I'm going to turn myself inside out to please
Right.
you and make you happy. And, I'm going to put myself all the way back here, not even on the back burner. Like, I'm back in the basement while
Right.
everybody else is in the forefront.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I guess it's also because it's easier to do, because you have, so in my case, I have not taken the time to get the deeper level of connection with myself up until that point, right? Like, so far it has been addressing the immediate needs around me, not necessarily taking the time to sit and, who am I? Like, what is my purpose? What do I want to do? Where do I see myself in future? So that having not taking the time to do that, uh, probably made other tasks of pleasing others or reacting to others' needs as like somewhat easier to do. And that's what I wanted to make a point is like, what really shifted in doing this edge is exactly that, like that deeper understanding and a deeper connection with who I am as a person, figuring out what my strengths are, figuring out where I fall short, and still accept myself as like a whole person, and be able to take small, however small the steps are, but take small steps to overcome some of those challenges, which I want to overcome, not because I want to please someone or be liked by someone, right? That's the key, and the whole concept of accountability, having an accountability partner. That's something I've heard, read, and been told by so many times, but have never done it in practice, which is another big shift, definitely, that Edge provided.
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, that's part of, it's why I pioneered group coaching 17 years ago. It's why I wrote the book, so that
Right.
everybody could figure out how to do it, even if you aren't a coach. But that big piece of behavior change comes
Yeah.
with accountability. And it is so difficult for us, first of all, to do part one of what Priyanka just said, which is figure out who we are right now. Not the woman that we were 5 years ago, not the man that we want to be 5 years from now, but who am I right now? What
Yeah.
really matters to me? Not what I think what should matter to me or what needs to matter to me, but what truly matters to me. And then allowing that to become the filter through which I make my choices. And then having those accountability partners along the way of, all right, Priyanka, you said that this was important to you. You said that getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning was important to you. How are you doing with it? Like, I think that is really important, that layer that goes along with it. If it were something that we could all do on our own, folks, we would have done it on our own already. And
Right.
like that to me is, how do I want to say this? I don't know if it's the cost of living in the times that we live in, but if you were to go back historically, hundreds and thousands of years ago, we lived together. We lived in villages. We lived in tribes. We lived on prairie outposts, right? We lived in little towns, and we helped one another move through the difficult seasons of our lives. And now we're in this time where figuring it out on your own is like a badge of honor. And
Hmm.
I just don't think human beings are built that way. Like, we're built and wired for connection and belonging, and we're seeking it now, post pandemic, more desperately than ever.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. I mean, posting on LinkedIn is one channel to find that connection for me as well. It's like you said, finding your tribe,
Yes.
essentially.
Finding
Yeah.
your tribe. And I was chatting with someone on LinkedIn the other day in the, just in the DMs, and she had shared something and I was responding back, and she's like, I can't believe I've never even met you in person. And I'm like, we didn't need to.
No, yeah, exactly.
To have the connection, we need to give ourselves permission to lean into vulnerability, as you said, to share our story. And when we do, what we find is that what we think is individual to us is
Yeah.
part of a collective.
Yep, for sure.
For sure. For sure. All right. Next question, my friend, because time is flying by as I know it
Right.
would for you. So, reflecting back on your peer group experience, what
Hmm.
would you say were, if you had to pick three, what
Hmm.
would you say were three big takeaways for you, and why were they so powerful?
Yeah. I think I may have touched on a couple of points already, but I'll reiterate because they are so powerful, like you said.
And
One,
maybe throw a story in there because that's
yeah,
kind of
sure.
what you do.
Yeah, so the number one is for me is the purpose and core values. So again, this is one of those things that we read about, we talk about, people tell us about, but we never like take the time to actually dive into the exercises, right? Some of the powerful aspects for me and whoever does this is there is an exercise where you interview your close friends, your family members, and what you hear back about what they tell you about you yourself, which when you are like 5 years old or 10 years old, it's amazing because you don't have that kind of historical knowledge about yourself. So all of that adds up. And in my case, I'll say like one of the core values is the unknown, right? The words the unknown. That is one of my core values, and that kind of makes sense because everybody I talked with in this part of this interviewing process, they said, oh, you really help us understand the problem better. You really ask a lot of good questions, and you display curiosity. So for me, that has become like, yeah, that is true. And part of why I moved into this current career that I am in with a corporate strategy is essentially uncovering the unknown. And so it kind of aligned with how I ended up making the decision to switch it up. So that is definitely number one.
Mhm.
The second key takeaway is coaching, which I wrote about today because I was thinking about today's live, and I was thinking about coaching. Again, is a very generic term, right? But Edge experience gave me a definition for it. It's like basically you're trying to help the person who is approaching you to solve a problem together. However, we as a coach are not solving the problem for them. We're helping them I understand, get the deeper understanding of the problem and figure out the answer on their own. Because when they do it on their own, they are more likely to own it. They're more likely to
Amen,
own their
sister. Yes.
solution. Right? So I mean, anybody who's attending Edge this year, Christy has one-on-one coaching sessions. Take full advantage of those. I almost signed up to pretty much all of those sessions, so I've seen her coach firsthand, and it's very valuable. It helped me internalize a lot of the things that I came to the table with, like the problem or the issue or the challenge that I came to table with, and the solution. I came up with the solution myself. She did not come up with the solution. So that's the key. That's the key. And the last key takeaway, which I kind of mentioned earlier, is the opportunity to practice vulnerability, right? That you have an opportunity to speak from your heart or from your belly or from your head. Those are the three ways in which you can speak and you can show up in these edge sessions. I went all in, and I recommend everybody to do that if you choose to, because it becomes a good playground to display vulnerability, get honest feedback, and as a result, some of the inhibitions you can shed, and you have 9 long months to do that. Slowly you can build up to the point where yeah, I mean, I can say this and people appreciate that I said that despite me feeling very, very, very vulnerable saying something. So that was another big takeaway for me.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And it reminds me of, my time being mentored by Dr. Brene Brown. And one of the things that she said over and over to us was vulnerability feels like fear, but looks like courage. I bet
Right.
there isn't a single person now, and drop a comment if this resonates with you, that doesn't think that Priyanka is an incredibly courageous leader, that doesn't look forward to reading your posts and learning from you. And yet, I bet, Priyanka, you're like me in that right before you hit send, you're like, do I really want to do this? Like, do I really edit it? Do I want to make myself sound like I have it more together? There's that hesitation. And it's reminding ourselves, think about, and I invite everyone, close your eyes for a moment and think about the last time you saw someone do something incredibly brave.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, there was vulnerability in that moment, because the definition of vulnerability is uncertainty,
Yeah.
risk, and emotional exposure. And in every brave deed, there is vulnerability. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot. And
Mm-hmm.
with that, let's, believe it or not, it is time to close us out. So, as we close out, my friend, if you could share one piece of advice to everyone listening right now who may be right on the edge of transforming some aspect of their life, whether it's going for a promotion like you did and reinventing themselves and going into a completely different area, or shifting how they show up at home or with their colleagues, or whatever, maybe getting on a not for profit board, if you could share one piece of advice, what would
Mm-hmm. Yeah. um, so I will first say, uh, by the end of Edge, I always keep telling myself, and I wake up and tell myself, right, like I am enough. So tell that to yourself more often. And if you already said that to yourself, the most important piece of advice is to ask the question, right, like what are you optimizing for? That if we can get to the bottom of the answer, I think that is a starting point. That's the point A, and it can take you in any direction. You can end up, your point B can be figured out easily. um, and in order to get to point B, once you figure out point A, what are you optimizing for? You're not alone. You don't have to do it alone. You can leverage, your friends, coaches, do therapy. There's a lot of people, like reach out, always reach out, like the post you put it up, Christy, the other day. Always reach out. There's people willing to help. In general, people want to see you succeed. In general, reach out and, yeah, get all the help you can, while accepting the fact that you're enough and understanding the answer to the question, what are we optimizing for? That would be my advice.
I love it. Couldn't have said it more beautifully myself. And so I'm not going to say another word. I'm going to let those
Thanks,
words
Chris.
just lay right out there. You are enough.
Yeah,
What are you optimizing for? And reach out.
yeah, that's it.
That's it. Just like that, we are out. Thank you for joining us, my friends, for this very first live of 2023, where we are celebrating our 10th anniversary. I promise we are bringing more powerful storytellers to you, because today, more than ever before, we need leaders who are willing to challenge the status quo in their own lives, and to remind themselves and remind ourselves that we are enough. Until next time, so long, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So long, so long.